This is a story of two bad mice. It was written in 1904. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful doll's house. It was red brick, with white windows, and it had real muslin curtains, and a front door and a chimney. It belonged to two dolls named Lucinda and Jane. At least it belonged to Lucinda, but she never ordered meals. Jane was the cook, but she never did any cooking because dinner had been bought in ready-made boxes full of shavings. There were 2 red lobsters and a ham, a fish, pudding, and some pears and oranges. They would not come off the plates, but they were extremely beautiful. One morning, Lucinda and Jane had gone out for a drive in the doll's perambulator, and there was no one in the nursery, and it was very quiet. Presently, there was a little scruffling and scratching, a scratching noise in the corner near the fireplace, where there was a hole under the skirting board. Tom Thumb put out his head for a moment and then popped it back in. Tom Thumb was a mouse. A minute afterwards, Hunca Munca, his wife, put her head out too. And when she saw there was no one in the nursery, she ventured out on the oilcloth under the coal box. The doll's house stood on the other side of the fireplace. Tom Thumb and Hunca Munca went cautiously across the hearthrug. They pushed the front door. It was not fast. Tom Thumb and Hunca Munca went upstairs and peeped into the dining room. Then they squeaked with joy. Such a lovely dinner was laid out upon the table. There were tin spoons and lead knives and forks and 2 dolly chairs, all so convenient. Tom Thumb set to work at once to carve the ham. It was beautiful, shiny yellow, streaked with red. The knife crumpled up and hurt him. He put his finger to his mouth. "It's not boiled enough. It's much too hard. You have to try hard, Hunca Munca." Hunca Munca stood up in her chair and chopped at the ham with another lead knife. "It's as hard as the hams at the cheesemonger's," said Hunca Munca. The ham broke off on the plate with a jerk and rolled under the table. "Let it alone," said Tom Thumb. "Give me some of the fish, Hunca Munca." My goodness, I don't think that they know it's plastic. It's not real. Hunca Munca tried every spoon in turn, and the fish was glued to the dish. When Tom Thumb lost his temper, he put the ham in the middle of the floor and hit it with the tongs and with a shovel in a bang, bang, smash. The ham flew into small pieces and under the shiny paint, and it was made of nothing but plaster. There was no end to the rage and disappointment of Tom Thumb and Hunca Munca. They broke up the pudding and the lobsters and the pear and the oranges. As the fish would not come off the plate, they could not put it into the red-hot, crinkly paper fire in the kitchen, but it would not burn either. Tom Thumb went up to the kitchen chimney and was looking at the top, and there was no soot. Oh my goodness, I don't think that they know that it's all pretend. While Tom Thumb was in the chimney, Hunca Munca had another disappointment. She found some tiny canisters on the dresser labeled rice, coffee, sago, but when she turned them upside down, there was nothing inside of them except red and blue beads. Those mice set to work to do all this mischief they could, especially Tom Thumb. He took Jane's clothes out of the chest drawer of her bedroom, and he threw them out the top of the window. And Hunca Munca had a frugal mind. After pulling half the feathers from Lucinda's bolster, she remembered that she herself was in want of a feather bed. With Tom Thumb's assistance, she carried the bolster downstairs and across the hearthrug. It was difficult to squeeze the bolster into the mouse hole, but somehow they managed. Then Hunca went back and fetched a chair and a bookcase and a birdcage and several small odds and ends. The bookcase and the birdcage refused to go into the mouse hole. Hunca left them behind the coal box and went to fetch a cradle. Hunca was just returning with another chair when suddenly there was a noise of talking outside the landing. The mice rushed back to their holes, and the dolls came into the nursery. What a sight met the eyes of Jane and Lucinda! Lucinda sat upon the upset kitchen stove and stared, and Jane leant against the kitchen dresser and smiled, but neither of them made a remark. The bookcase and the birdcage were rescued from under the coal box, but Hunca has got the cradle and some of Lucinda's clothes. She also made use of the pots and pans and several other things. The little girl that the dollhouse belonged to said, "I will get a doll dressed like a policeman." But the nurse said, "I will set a mousetrap." And so that is the story of the two bad mice. But they were not so very naughty after all, because Tom Thumb paid for everything he broke. He found a crooked sixpence under the hearthrug, and upon Christmas Eve, he and Hunca stuffed it into one of the stockings of Lucinda and Jane. Aw, that's so sweet of them. And very early in the morning, before anybody is awake, Hunca comes down with her dustpan and broom to sweep the dolly's house. Aww.